Hello, welcome to this episode of the FANMEN podcast. I'm DJ Gove.
Chris Davis.
Sean Hogarty.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, boys?
Week.
Happy week. Happy whatever day this is. And everything just blends together. I don't know. I have to go to work tomorrow. Actually, no, I do have to go to work tomorrow, so it's having a weekend for me.
I don't think I've slept since the Red Sox won the World Series. So
Actually, we didn't actually touch that. Yeah, so and everyone hates us, but we're up in the Northeast, and the Boston Red Sox, our beloved Boston Red Sox, won the World Series.
It had been a whole 630 days since these kids had a title this year.
I know, and that's just something that
I feel bad for my 9-year-old.
I know, exactly. These kids have it so rough nowadays. So it's funny too, because I'm watching it because they were in LA and they won, and I'm gonna sound like such an asshole, but it's like if you live anywhere else, if you lived in Kansas City when the Royals won, you're probably doing cartwheels in the streets. But what are we? Sale came in. I'm like, oh, he's gonna punch these three guys out. 1, 2, gets that last strike. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's over with.
My brother picked me up about 25 minutes later. Yeah. We drove to Dick's so the girls could have shirts for school the next day.
We're so spoiled.
Went to bed.
We're so spoiled.
Great.
It is what it is. So we won't get into the sports thing, but yeah. So yeah, Red Sox won the World Series, and because of that, we were watching baseball games all week. No one really bought anything this week. I know. I still haven't even picked up my books from the last week.
I'm not buying anything under protest of Chris not telling me what he has bought.
Yeah, so Chris ended up buying his thing, and we're hoping it's going to show up for the next episode.
I don't know why you boys want to see my thing so bad.
Only because you keep describing it in mysterious ways.
Oh, it's luscious. It's beautiful.
You're a dick.
Thank you.
So I've even picked up my books. I haven't really bought any new toys. I know I've just waited because next week is the launch of they're rebooting the Green Lantern books. Mm-hmm. As we talked about my favorite comic book character, so I'm going to go to the midnight for that.
I was going to say, that's your sweet spot.
And I've heard really good things about this new book. Really good things.
Who's writing this one? Is John's writing it again?
No, it's
Is Morrison coming back?
Yes.
Wait, Grant Morrison's
coming back?
Yes. Yeah.
I love Grant Morrison. I'm just not a big Green Lantern guy.
Yeah, no, it's my thing. So I'll pick up all my books then.
Depends on the story for me.
Yeah.
I don't dislike Green Lantern. It hasn't been one that I've read in continuity all the time, but there are certain story arcs that I've dove into.
What volume is this? Is this 6?
Oh, God.
7?
It depends how you... Some people
was in the 60s.
Yeah, some people only catalog, they catalog the different head lanterns separately. Mm-hmm. So even though this could be say 6 or whatever, it might only be Hal Jordan Volume 3.
So you're keeping Alan separate from Hal.
Keep John Stewart, keep Guy Gardner, keep Kyle Rayner, all of that stuff separate. But
well, cool.
It's probably going to be at least 6.
Yeah. And I haven't, because of all the travel and work lately, I think I haven't been to the store in a couple weeks, so I haven't picked up my books.
There was no auction this week, so no auction books to go pick up.
It's been a little quiet.
I got a couple I paid for that are sitting up there, but hopefully they don't get too mad with me leaving stuff for a couple weeks. But I'm far away too. It takes
no, you paid for them.
As long as you paid.
Yeah, I paid for them.
They don't care.
I know they have limited storage space, but so once again, last episode we touched on a bunch of 80s movies and 80s scores. So we're gonna keep
that. Talking 80s stuff, it's clear that we love this stuff.
It is, yeah. So we had so much fun. We're gonna keep it going. So once again, slow news week, end of the year. As far as the movie news and the stuff like that, we really don't have anything to talk about. None of the big stuff gets released. You're not gonna get even a name for the new Infinity War movie till probably Captain Marvel. Of course, Captain Marvel's coming out. So until Aquaman comes out in December, we have really nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
with
we're in a
anything
slow
current.
period right now.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll be done with Titans one of these days. Whenever one of us finishes Daredevil, we'll talk about it. But we're going to go back to the 80s. We're going to go back to our beloved movies. And this time, we're going to do action. So once again, action. So like I said, once again, we did sci-fi last time. Some of the stuff does straddle the line. Predator, for instance, Aliens.
Sure.
You can count those action movies.
Use them.
Yeah.
But it's just, anything that we didn't mention then, let's throw it out there. So action movies. Give me something.
So I've got one I'll be interested to know if you guys saw it. But I saw it in the theater and had the paperback on my shelf as previously noticed. Firefox.
Yes.
No.
Firefox was the Clint Eastwood movie.
Yes.
My father took me to that in the theater.
Yeah. So this is a cool movie. Hits on a lot of my spots because it's
essentially the stealth.
Yeah. So it hits on movie production and effects. So I had heard about it maybe in Starlog because of the miniature shots and stuff involved in it. But basically, Clint Eastwood is a is a retired, some kind of military pilot with high clearance, high security clearance, and was trained in the Russian language. But he's retired off in the mountains someplace, and the military comes looking for him because they want him to come back, as they do, for a special mission that only he can do. The Russians have a new stealth, super fast, bomber thing, and it is controlled by the pilot's mind, the pilot's thoughts. And so the pilot has to be able to think in Russian, and they want to steal it. So they need Clint Eastwood, the only man technically capable to both fly this bird and think in Russian. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So 80s.
So it's so
awesome.
80s it hurts.
Oh, it's
exactly.
so good.
But Cold War, spy, technology, miniature effects, high speed through a snowy canyon.
And let's take a moment to recognize the fact that in an early 80s action movie, Clint Eastwood was already old enough to be playing a retired guy.
Oh, yeah.
And we're getting another Clint Eastwood movie like next week.
Isn't that insane? It's insane. It's
I love Clint Eastwood, so it's okay.
Yeah.
In fact,
props to Clint.
You know what? I have a weird special love of Clint Eastwood because my stepdad was just a Clint Eastwood fan. And
Dirty Harry movies and all that.
Yeah. And he and I didn't jibe a lot when I was a kid. He was kind of a military guy from a cold military father and a fantastic provider, fantastic guy, fantastic military officer. Not somebody I jived with well socially or, interaction wise, but his love of Clint Eastwood built a path for me to love Clint Eastwood. And that movie is one piece of that, as well as all the spaghetti westerns, Man with No Name stuff.
Going into any of the Callahan movies.
Oh, yeah.
Deadpool. I remember seeing Deadpool in the theater. And it's probably right around that same, right around the same time.
Deadpool, I think, might
be a little
be
later.
80s,
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it. But yeah, so Firefox is one I wanted to throw out there.
That's cool. I've never seen that. So I was a huge Eastwood guy. My father used to watch a lot of like the Western ones, like the Good Bad. I'm predisposed to not like Western movies. I found them boring as a small child, but I'm sure they're phenomenal movies now. But
my love of bad action movies came specifically from my father. He was the king of going to like any of the B grade sci-fi, any of those. Mm-hmm. That's right in his wheelhouse. So most of these that we're going to talk about, in a previous episode, we talked about They Live. He was the one that introduced me to that. And the first one that I'm going to throw out there is another one that, again, went back and read the book after the fact, First Blood.
First Blood, okay.
Oh.
That's one, something a child should not be watching.
Something I'm not sure I've ever actually seen it. I've certainly...
You probably saw Rambo.
I probably saw Rambo.
So it's the second one. I like Rambo because Rambo's just like, it's a fun and gun movie. It's a popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
First Blood was dark.
Yeah, it's almost like it borders drama almost. It's like psychological kind of.
It bordered drama.
That's my favorite kind of action. Is where it actually has a
post-traumatic stress. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vietnam vet trying to integrate back into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, as a kid, I didn't understand that. I was just like, why is this? Like, what? But then in 2, it's like, shoot the helicopter. Bang, bang, bang.
I think so. Yeah. Well, 2. Once they found out that like people like the character. Oh, we're going to have Sly come out of the mud. Yeah. Just a wall of mud, and then all of a sudden, eyes open, and he comes out and knifes some guy.
Yeah, and it's just more like another weird thing that like I shouldn't have watched Rambo as a kid, but
I clearly shouldn't have watched this.
But like everything else in the 80s, by the time I was 7, there was a Rambo cartoon, there was Rambo action figures, there was a Rambo lunchboxes.
He might as well have been a member of G.I. Joe at that point.
It's kind of a horrible game now, but it's actually real good. There's a Rambo Nintendo game I could actually beat back in the day.
Good.
I don't know how. The game's horrible and unplayable, but somehow I finished it. So I shouldn't have watched that, but now I have this thing where I really like Rambo as a character. To the point where like the last Rambo they did a couple years ago is probably the best one.
Congratulations. They're filming 5 as we speak.
I know. The last Rambo movie was awesome.
I need to watch them all, I guess.
Dude,
they're watchable.
He has like one of those, there's not to jump out of the 80s real quick, but the last Rambo movie, just because I like just completely just over the top shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pickup truck with like one of those like saw guns in it. They use to like cut down trucks on the walls on upside bases. And literally he jumps in the back of the pickup truck, turns it like it's 5 inches away from the 2 guys in the front and just unloads the entire thing into it.
Oh.
He just fuck shit up in that movie. So, but anyway, but yeah, that's
pretty bad.
like Rambo
Yeah.
2 I liked because it was, like I said, it was fun and good.
And that would have been in the 80s too, right? That would have been.
Yeah, Rambo.
First Blood was early.
First Blood was early, and then Rambo and Rambo 3 were both 80s movies, and then they skipped 20 years or whatever. So I'm going to go, you can call it, this is totally my age sticking through it, and it's an action movie, even though it's a cartoon, it's allowed. G.I. Joe the movie. I should, so,
No.
I,
All right,
Oh, no.
go.
So I'm not gonna talk about it for long. So I'm bringing.
I'm going to
it up,
let you finish, but no.
yeah,
I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm just bringing it up because if any of my friends ever happen to hear this, I will get crucified for not mentioning Transformers the movie for for our sci-fi block. So I watched a lot of G.I. Joe. It was good stuff. Anyway, we'll skip that. Also, as part of this discussion, obviously, no one needs to talk about Indiana Jones. We all know where it lies.
Yeah.
We can just
Try
skip
to
over that.
avoid. Yep.
Yep.
So I'm going to go, another one of my favorite ones from when I was younger, Commando.
Yeah.
Oh, nice
yeah.
bowl.
Obviously, Schwarzenegger basically
Get to the
owned the
chopper.
80s. He
Yeah.
owned the 80s. I have multiples we're going to talk about on this list that are his. You know, I used to watch Who's the Boss when I got home from school. Alyssa Milano was in it, so you had that tie-in.
Yeah.
And I don't know the official numbers, but I always grew up thinking Commando had the highest body count out of any movie I had seen.
Makes sense.
Yeah, probably did.
It's up there. It's got to be
If you
up
told
there.
me it, I couldn't argue the point.
No, and it was the start of, Terminator, because he was a robot. He didn't have a lot of like human lines, but like that started, I think, like the horrible Arnold pun things, like my friend is dead tired and stuff like that, and all that stupid shit. And
Boy, built a career off it.
he did. You know, and it had like, who was one of the guys from Predator's in? I think was it Bill Dukes? Is that his name? Bill Duke, the guy from Predator, and it was just awesome. It was just like kidnap Arnie's kid. Like, what are you thinking? Arnie coming to get you. Arnie fucking kills everybody. Very straight to the point. So I
Certainly,
love Commando.
definitely. 80s action that fits right in that
Yeah,
bucket.
it's so 80s.
The one I wanted to bring up that I think counts as action, but I saw it in the theater and it was fantastic. Romancing the Stone.
That counts as action.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
no,
Right.
actually,
That's
definitely.
yeah, and I loved that. It had it had all kinds of fantastic
Young
elements,
Kathleen Turner. I mean,
Yep.
Come on.
and I think it was the 80s. I'm not possible.
Oh yeah,
Romancing the
Stone was
they
80s,
both
but-
because wasn't that there was two of them.
Jewel of the
right?
Nile was.
Jewel of the-
yeah.
Yeah, I think they were both 80s.
No, but I was Iron Eagle, Louis
Lou
Gossett
Gossett
Jr.
Jr.
hmm That movie might have been my first kiss with my longtime girlfriend in high school.
Ooh,
Okay.
Ooh, now we're
Yeah.
getting juicy.
No, that's
Anymore.
the entirety. Yeah, no, you're supposed to sing that, Chris.
Jen, turn this off.
No, this is a long time ago. but
Just kidding.
But yeah, Iron Eagle, one of the most unbelievable things in the universe, right? You don't just wander onto a military base and take off with an armed fighter. But hey,
Hey,
Yeah.
things could happen.
and
That's,
then,
back to back for Louis Gossett Jr. hopping into our roundtable. We talked about Enemy of Mine on the sci-fi
right,
one.
yeah.
I
so-
like that. I like that. I'm going to stick with another Stallone.
Ooh.
I'm going to go over the top.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
I-
Cobra.
No. I told you.
Top.
B grade action movies were like the bread and butter. If Dolph Lundgren was in one,
Oh, I know.
it's
An arm wrestling movie.
Yeah. I didn't
an
watch a lot of these.
An arm wrestling movie. You have a truck driver that has to turn around his hat to arm wrestle
To arm wrestle.
as he's trying to repair his relationship with his kid.
Through
His
the,
mother's
through the magic of arm wrestling and truck driving.
The mother's dying of cancer at home, and who the heck played his father-in-law?
I don't
Oh
remember
my
because I never
God.
saw it. I'm realizing something here on this topic that highlights, right? You guys like wrestling. You guys like action
like
movies.
macho bullshit.
Oh
Well,
God!
I wouldn't have called
This-
it macho bullshit, but it seems to correlate, to align with that kind of difference.
I like my action movies with like a heavy dose of cheese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely one of them. So
That's yeah.
See, I was thinking like Lethal Weapon.
Oh,
Right.
that's what I had on my
But
list
again,
too.
so that's got, but
Your
it
buddy
gets
cop.
away from the meaty meathead action movie.
No, but that's an
and
action
more-
movie.
Oh, it is.
Most
but it's
definitely.
got
very good one too.
it's fantastic. So I'm basically
It's got
saying
a-
the ones I like are fantastic, and the ones you like are meaty and stupid.
They are.
Ah.
So like one.
That's the
I mean,
point
how,
I'm making.
I mean, how do we recover from Iron Eagle?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I mean,
Hold on.
seriously. I mean,
But that's not meaty and stupid.
But that won't-
That's
but I-
just stupid.
that's just stupid.
But so like Iron Eagle is meant to be like action, but like straight laced, like serious kind of like military action. Whereas,
I'm not. I don't know.
whereas that's a movie about,
Serious,
like I said, a guy who wants to bond with his son by him arm wrestling and driving a truck. Speaking of also driving a truck and stupid cheese, Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, I mean,
God, that's coup de grace.
Love that movie.
Beautiful.
So I said it could straddle the sci-fi line a little bit, but I mean, cool, like Chinese bad guys. Had a Raiden before Raiden was a thing for Mortal Kombat. And the sign of, so basically if you wanted like a gold star in the 80s, and I didn't realize it when I was a kid because I was not enough to know, but looking back on it, especially as a teenager, if you're building like a Hall of Fame ballot, 80s Kim Cattrall has to be on that ballot.
Oh my God.
yeah.
If we ever talk about comedies, which we'll do, I got some stuff in that too, but looking
Mannequin?
back on it,
Yeah.
yeah, 80s Kim Cattrall, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just, it's Jack Burton's probably one of the great movie characters of all time. I know
Who's Jack Burton?
Your old pal Jack Burton. To point, I don't know if you, so going back to the comic stuff, Boom Studios did a Big Trouble in China book, and it's just cool to see the stuff continue. So yeah, I'll go Big Trouble in China. That's a weird, it's cheesy as all hell.
Yeah.
Cheesy as shit.
That's okay. But that fits. I mean, we're talking about 80s action. Cheese is almost, right? What have we mentioned that didn't include? Firefox was not cheese.
No, that wasn't cheesy. That was
But everything else?
Most of it is. Most is so, like, just,
I mean,
80s was the era of indulgence, right?
in that same kind of vein, The Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yep.
Vanity, you basically have Studio 54 and what, guys working in a fortune cookie company? I mean, the whole thing
It's so,
was just ridiculous.
yeah, you won't go back on
It's-
what the fuck were they thinking with this thing? But it all holds up still because it's like it connects to memories.
It works. Exactly.
So somebody like you talked about Iron Eagle, like but Iron Eagle like tried to be serious, and it's still it. I mean, it's not like you don't watch that movie and be like, this is so like goofballs. One that tried to be like straight laced like that, but you watch it now, and at least I find it to be hilarious. Roadhouse.
Oh
my God,
Roadhouse. Yeah. Was that 80s?
That's
Yeah.
one of my top two.
Yeah,
I love Roadhouse.
but it's just like,
It is
Yeah.
so good.
I mean, God rest his soul, Patrick Swayze, but like now that I'm an adult, you couldn't convince me that Patrick Swayze could kick anybody's ass.
You don't fuck with Dalton. Are you kidding me?
But it's like you just like if you walk into a bar and you see the feathered hair and the tight white jeans, you're like, you gonna fucking listen to that guy? No.
So I go ahead.
No, and Sam Elliott. when
Sam
that
Elliott,
movie-
yeah.
Sam Elliott already looked like he was 70 years old.
I know.
I mean, he wasn't moving too good in that movie. 30 years.
That's how they got him.
Oh,
The one I wanted to bring up that I know you guys will hopefully remember, FX, Brian Brown.
I remember the movie. Yeah.
So the reason I thought it was worth bringing up is it's another thing that hits more of my spots where it was about a Hollywood effects artist.
Was it like a horror movie kind of? Like
No, it was like an action movie, but the lead character had Brian Dennehy, which I love Brian Dennehy character actors. But the lead guy, I haven't watched it in so long that I don't remember, but some kind of like crime drama action thing. But the fact that the guy's a special effects artist and can wire things, somehow is a major plot point for this action movie, and I just loved it.
I think any discussion of 80s action movies has to come back to the king of all Christmas movies, Die Hard.
Yes. I knew you guys were bringing it up, so I didn't bother. But
I mean, that's in terms of all-time favorites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gives you Hans Gruber, right? It gives you...
yeah, first Alan Rickman.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the first time I saw Rick.
If there's a comic book,
Yeah.
that's a key issue. First Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Rickman had to have been in other things, but I certainly had never seen
it was just
before
Gave
that.
me my favorite Christmas song of all time. You get Christmas in Hollis. I mean,
Christmas.
come on.
As
Argyle's blasting it as a roll to
Yeah.
Nakatomi.
yeah, as actually the Die Hard Funko Pops came out,
Oh, yeah?
and they have the one with the guy in the chair with the ho ho ho.
Now I have a machine gun.
That was the first movie set I ever wanted to go see.
Oh, yeah?
First time I went to Los Angeles, I had to buzz the
you went
tower
to
and see
Nakatomi?
Nakatomi.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's awesome.
No.
Let's see, what's some other ones? Probably because of my age, I don't know about you guys, but in it's action/adventure. Obviously, no one needs to talk about Goonies. Goonies is Goonies.
Sure. Yeah.
One of the all-time 80s movies, especially like I don't know if you guys maybe were too old for it when it came out, possibly.
Goonies? No, that would have been mid 80s.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it was
that
like
would've been right in-
87 or 8.
Yeah,
okay.
that would have been right in the
Okay,
wheelhouse.
man. Okay, yeah. So I mean, like I said,
Yep.
Goonies is an all-timer. Holds up very well still very relevant in pop culture and in people's minds.
I mean, you got Thanos as the big brother.
Exactly.
Come on.
So there's no need to talk about that. So I'm going to go a little off the wall. Something that I didn't bring up for sci-fi, which it was one of the ones it was on the tip of my tongue when we were talking sci-fi, but so it should technically shout out that line, but Highlander. I love Highlander.
I thought about that. I figured that, I don't know if that counted as action or,
probably more
fantasy
sci-fi, so
adventure.
Let's skip that one because that was my fault for not bringing that up. I fucked that one up. So I'm gonna go. This one also could. I guess it's not comedy. It's an action movie. I like Tango and Cash when I was younger.
I thought about that one. Yeah.
That's a good flick.
Keeps coming up.
The only reason I know of that movie is because in the fraternity house in college, right? I went to college in '89, and we had HBO, and it seemed like Tango and Cash was on every night.
It was on repeat.
Yeah, that and
certainly one.
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Right? I mean,
oh my God, I haven't thought of that movie in years.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever actually watched it, but those were there. I mean, Karate Kid, isn't that?
Yeah,
I always thought to me that was more like a drama. Yeah. So like we have.
I gave you Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah. So we
and Billy Zabka.
That's true.
I mean, who became the quintessential '80s high school movie villain?
Exactly. Seriously. I didn't even bring it up yet. So when going back to our shared universe, or expanded universe discussion, Conan the Barbarian, Conan movies.
Oh yeah,
great action movies. Arnold again. Basically, Arnold and Sly ran the '80s. They really did, and especially in this genre.
If you're going down just groups of movies, and I can't really pick out any one, but if you're thinking of 80s action movies, you got to loop in Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I was going to,
and Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
And all of those movies tend to be, although Time Cop kind of kicked ass. I like that one. But a lot of the other ones, they were kind of all the same.
They were like,
like,
unless like you're really into it, like I can tell the difference, but I know a lot of people that could never tell.
Seagal on a boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just where you're going to plop.
Seagal on a boat, Seagal on a train.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that can't differentiate Bloodsport and Kickboxer. I can tell, like if it's on for 5 seconds, I can tell which one it is. I like Bloodsport personally because it had Ogre in it from Revenge of the Nerds.
It's good, yeah.
The Kumite, which it was funny. My entire life, I always grew up believing, oh, that's like a real thing. And then I found out the guy Frank Dukes, who they did the movie about, was just so full of shit. Like it was just, like the guy is like one of the all-time greatest frauds. But yeah, so I mean, anything Van Damme did. I mean, I think Van Damme didn't he kind of get going a lot more in the '90s?
Yeah, I think he was more.
The early ones were.
Yeah, so you had Bloodsport and Kickboxer, and then in the '90s he went into like Time Cop, Universal Soldier, and Double Team with Rodman and all that stuff. The Seagal movies, was it? What was the first Seagal movie? Was it Something to Kill, Time to Kill, or something?
Time to Kill. Yeah, something like that.
Is that the one with
watched those?
And then there was
Above the Law was one of them.
I don't know if
that was later.
Yeah, it might have been '90s. My favorite one's the one when he goes to Jamaica, when he cuts off the screw face or whatever.
One of my favorite things about the '80s was Seagal running.
God, I know.
He looks like an oversized girl with a ponytail.
And how
the hands flap. He can't hold a gun. It's awesome.
The thing about Seagal that always got me is like, the whole way he holds a knife drives me batshit crazy. But it's like he was supposed to be like this like badass, and then you find out like later on in life, like when he was first off he pulled Killer Brock, which I was like, how?
Yeah.
How is that possible? But then like, he got a little handsy with her back in the day. That's why they ended up getting divorced. But he's like this all-time badass action star, and she kicked the shit out of him once when he went to hit her. But
yeah,
he's over in Moscow now, right?
He is. So
or he's ambassador. It's something.
If somehow Steven Seagal's listening, please.
You certainly can't talk '80s action without his name coming up.
No, he was quintessential. So him and Van Damme. How about Red Dawn?
Red Dawn seemed. I saw that in the theater. That was definitely
Wolverines.
Action '80s. Yeah, Wolverines.
I think you have one interesting crossover that we're missing, and that's some of the Eddie Murphy movies. 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could kind of consider...
the biggest comedy star of the 80s.
Yeah. Could you consider Golden Child an action movie? Or is that more... That's more funny. That's more kind of...
I want the knife.
I want...
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's more comedy. maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of
48 hours, maybe.
There's
maybe
there's plenty of 80s dramas or other 80s movies that don't fall into action that,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 40 hours is probably a little more drama-ish, a little more serious. Because the action movies were all just so over the top.
They were. Something like Lethal Weapon you could classify as a comedy. I mean, it's the buddy cop. It's very jokey.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got the crazy one with long hair.
But it's got chasing
and the old one.
It's got chasing and shooting and martial arts on the lawn in the dark and so it
I mean, that movie should have inspired millions of movie writers.
Yeah.
If you can write that, I mean.
Yeah. I just had what I think is a deep cut poll. I just got to check the year real quick.
Okay. Weird.
1989. Best of the Best.
I must have seen
it. It was a Eric Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a karate team movie.
Karate team movie.
I don't remember a ton about it. I don't remember why they went to like this karate tournament, but there was this young kid Tommy who was like the best one, and he wanted to like quit. I forget how it goes, but Eric Roberts like is fighting at the end in like a very Karate Kid fashion. He gets like guy like axe kicks his shoulder or whatever. And I just remember he's like sitting, he's got the separated shoulder, and it's like I've separated my shoulder. It doesn't hurt that much. I mean, it hurts, but not like you would have
separated my shoulder. I wasn't interested in doing anything else.
I mean,
at that time.
But the acting job on it, like you would have thought, he got shot with a fucking cannon. He's like, and he's like, pop it, Tommy, pop it, and Tommy pops his shoulder back in his socket, and he goes out there with the arm tied to his side and like fucking like kick, beats the guy, crank him and shit. Just one of those like wicked, like over the top. But when you're 10 years old or whatever, and you see it,
it's awesome.
So do you count Scarface as an action movie or a drama?
Drama.
See, I think it's a drama.
Yeah,
it's drama with a lot of violence.
Yeah,
it's a violent drama. Just like I wouldn't consider Goodfellas an action movie.
Yeah, no. I think it's tough, and it's tough when you're talking about movies that you love from an era to obey the try to stay with
try to silo.
Yeah.
So if you and the Batman.
I see. I mean, technically, it has some action in it, but that's not an action movie.
Batman. What would you have? Superman 1 was 2, in the 70s. Superman 2 would be. 2.
And wasn't Superman 2 Richard Pryor? And
no, that was Superman 3. We don't talk about Superman 3.
Superman 2 is
General Zod.
Yeah, Neil before Zod.
It's been a long time since
Giant
I've seen
cellophane S's.
Mm-hmm. Giant cellophane S's.
I was like, I remember as a kid, I was like, where did that come from? I don't remember that. Okay, so everything we just talked about. Like I said, we took Indiana Jones off it, but so if you're gonna go home tonight and watch one 80s action movie, what are you watching to kind of just like stoke the memory flames?
I mean, I need to go see Firefox again. Right, the first one I brought up.
Yeah, you've kind of inspired me, but not to go with the same one.
Yep.
I mean, Die Hard's the go-to.
I still haven't seen the last.
That's true.
I don't think I've seen the last 2 Die Hard movies.
The last one you didn't miss anything. 4 was
the last one, Jai Courtney with the son.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the 4th one had Kevin Smith in it as the wizard or whatever. I haven't seen that one either. With Justin
Long. That one wasn't bad with Justin Long. It was
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
At least they tried to tie it back to.
That's true. That's true.
We don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah, I'll watch it at some point.
Spoilers 10 years later.
Yes. Yeah. Not Sean's favorite thing. If I had to watch just like the one that I still find to be the most watchable, it's Big Trouble in Little China. I can throw that on and.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen that all the way through.
Whew, really?
Yeah. For me, it's a little. I was going to say it's a little like Buckaroo Banzai in that.
I can see that.
I feel like it's something I should like. Every time I've tried to watch it, and I own a copy of it, it just it hasn't really done it for me.
It was like when I was younger, it was just cartoony enough to be almost like a cartoon. Yeah. Basically, is what it was. So,
and Kim Cattrall was hot.
And Kim Cattrall, man, your old pal Jack Burton with the Pork Chop Express.
She's in that. Maybe I'll go watch it.
Yeah,
no, it's worth it.
I'll give it a shot.
Worth a view.
Yeah, good flick. So like I said, you just like the sci-fi stuff. You can talk about this for days. It's just the decade was just.
There's
jammed.
Lots of comedy ones that are on that action comedy.
There are,
line.
yeah. We'll do comedies next and talk about some of that stuff because there's like I said, there's a lot of things that strap.
I really want to give Burt Reynolds a shout out. So
we
can get to that.
Okay, we can do that next. So last episode we did movie scores.
Mm-hmm. 80s movie scores.
Yes, 80s movie scores. So basically, they're soundtracks without words. Even though I cheated and put Flash Gordon as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
So let's do soundtracks. These are CD, or then tapes back then, where you had, even if it was only one song on it, because there was a lot of movie songs in the 80s that went top 10 and one-hit wonders and stuff like that. So we're going to do soundtracks. Let's do this. Sean had a good idea, since we have trouble controlling ourselves. Let's start with honorable mentions. Something that just barely missed your list.
Yeah. Honorable mentions and our number 3, or we're just going to set the stage?
Like you said, do your honorable mention, then lead into 3.
Okay. So the honorable mention is Good Morning Vietnam. Right?
Ooh.
Such a fantastic collection of 60s, rock. Right? It's just a great album. Also noteworthy because it had Robin Williams bits in the soundtrack, right? So you also, it doesn't always work to have dialogue.
One of the first ones that actually was inserting some of the snippets. I mean,
possibly.
You see it,
I'm trying to
you
think
see it
about
a lot now.
Yeah. I mean, Quentin Tarantino does it a lot. Kevin Smith did it on some of his. And sometimes like a Natural Born Killers comes to mind, right? A really interesting soundtrack album. But the stuff that they put in there, it's from the movie and stuff, but it's profane. It doesn't belong. And so it actually makes your ability to listen to the music.
Yeah, it takes you out of the groove.
Yeah. Okay. But Good Morning Vietnam, it was a great distillation. So that was my honorable mention. But my number 3 is Say Anything.
Oh, that's a good pull.
Right? I mean,
excellent pull.
In Your Eyes is one of the quintessential, movie defining or soundtrack defining songs.
And Peter Gabriel was phenomenal.
Yeah, but there was Living Color, there was Depeche Mode, there was a lot of great tracks from that. Yeah, but that's my number 3, Say Anything.
I didn't even think about that one.
I don't think I'd seen the movie for maybe 10 years after I was listening to the soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah, it was just the soundtrack itself. Yep.
So good. I actually had 2 honorable mentions. And these guys were right. I didn't want to leave either of them off the list, but I couldn't really crack that top 3 with either of them. First being Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
Just because that's, again, it kind of goes back to when we were talking about the scores.
Mm-hmm.
That song was everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not escape that when you were growing up in the 80s. The second honorable mention was St. Elmo's Fire.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Was it John Parr?
John Parr.
I should know that, being my age, but
but
another movie saw way too early. Yeah. That was one I remember my parents seeing it in the theater.
John Parr
playing the soundtrack.
I think there was David Foster involved in that too.
Sounds familiar.
I think he was. It's one of those things. Yeah, one of those earworms that was placed there by your parents when you were a kid.
Yep.
So those 2 just missed the cut. Number 3 for me is the Blues Brothers soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no way to.
I mean, it's a tour de force, much like you were just saying with saying anything. Just the names involved in that.
Yeah.
Just God rest her soul, Aretha on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sing your way through every track after listening to it once.
That's true. Yeah, very listenable. Okay, so for my honorable mentions, I went. So there was one guy who kind of ruled the '80s, right? So I had to pick. I wanted to try to put something Kenny Loggins in my top 3. I couldn't do it. So I had to. I couldn't do it.
Just put all of them.
I know. So I'm like, what?
Caddyshack?
What, exactly. So I was thinking, what goes honorable mention? So I'm All Right.
Top Gun. I mean,
I'm All Right's on my gym playlist. I like to lift weights, so it's a great song. But I went honorable mention. I went Top Gun, just because you had Danger Zone and you had Take My Breath Away by Berlin, which is a phenomenal song. I wanted to put Top Gun in my 3, but I figured that one to me was maybe it was too easy.
Yeah.
So it was right on the cusp.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one that's right there, and my brother's going to tell me, is Ghostbusters.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean,
Ray Parker Jr. It's
even outside the Ghostbusters song.
I'm not even sure I remember other tracks on that soundtrack.
Oh yeah, you have the.
Here, I'll pull it up. Let's see.
Yeah, you have the song when they're I don't know the names of the songs, but you have the song
Cleaning Up the Town.
Yep, there's that one.
Saving the Day.
Yeah.
In the Name of Love, Thompson Twins.
Yeah.
So that's right in my sweet spot.
Yeah. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. My number 3 is one of Chris' honorable mentions is the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Yeah.
I love horrible pop music.
That's not horrible pop music.
Well, some people if one of my other 30-something-year-old buddies knew I like the Dirty Dancing sound. I love that song.
Oh,
Fucking love that song. Song's an all-timer. So, I mean, you had that. You had Eric Carmen. You had Hungry Eyes. I see. Let's not forget She's Like the Wind.
Oh, yeah.
I miss you, Dalton.
It had that perfect mix of like new stuff and like there's some 50s kind of sound stuff on there.
Yeah.
But I like I said, I'm raised by VCR. I've said a million times already by now, but a lot of like the sappy, like romantic-y kind of movies I love. So I'm not too proud
We
of it.
need to do a top 3 sometime of actors who have done bad songs.
Oh, let's do it right now.
No.
Patrick Swayze, Bruce Willis, Eddie Murphy.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Don't forget Jack Wagner either.
Oh,
and Don Johnson. Heartlight.
Jack Wagner's
Heartbeat.
song.
Heartlight's
Heartlight's Neil Diamond.
E.T. Yeah, that's Neil Diamond.
No, Jack Wagner's song. That's freaking gold,
Jack Wagner,
dude. I'm an unabashed soft rock. Soft rock in the 70s and 80s. I got no apologies there. Phil Collins, Against All Odds. It's take a look at me now.
Good song. Yeah, so I'm gonna go Dirty Dancing. So I mean, what catapults it is. I've had the time of my life. It's one of the probably one of the best pop songs ever.
It's one of the perfect duets.
It is.
Right?
It is.
So that's great. So what are we up to?
Number 2.
That was number 2 for me, Lost Boys. It was a soundtrack album that I listened to an awful lot, and I actually brought it up to remember, the stuff in it, because the songs themselves weren't huge hits, but the album as a whole was just fantastic. So there's Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, covered by Roger Daltrey, is actually way better for me than the Elton John original, right? Okay. People Are Strange, covered by Echo and the Bunnymen, another kind of new wave alternative cover of, that was a Doors song, right? But fantastic. Cry Little Sister by Gerard McMahon. Just, I don't know, these things you won't remember if you didn't listen to the soundtrack the way I did, but this entire album is fantastic. This song, Beauty Has Her Way by Mummy Calls. I have no idea who Mummy Calls is. But just straight through listening to that soundtrack was a big deal.
Nice.
Excellent, Paul. You guys are going to chuckle a little bit at my number 2. It's the Rocky IV soundtrack.
Another one. It's tracks from that the workout routine.
Hearts on Fire.
Hearts on Fire. The training montage.
Yeah, the training montage was the opening to one season of our Killer Whale show.
That was something that was in my workout list. For the long, it was one of those silly things where it brings you right back to.
Yeah, that's such a good.
Him in the hills in Russia somewhere doing these upside down sit ups and picking Polly up.
Yeah, with the log in the snow.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I have to throw that on my gym list as I get ready for Creed 2.
Oh, definitely. Oh,
I still haven't seen Creed.
You should watch Creed.
Oh, Creed is an amazing movie.
Phenomenal.
I've heard that.
So good.
What was your 3 again? Your 3 was.
My number 3 is the Blues Brothers.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. That's a good one. Rocky IV.
And that's something kind of like the Lost, unless you listen to it all the time.
Yeah,
that was one.
It sets in.
Yeah.
It
nice.
became the workout album.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 2, not really showing the imagination, is Back to the Future. So I didn't touch on it in the score part, but the Back to the Future theme is another one of those, like anything John Williams did. This isn't John Williams, but like Superman, Star Wars, Indy.
Yeah.
You hear it and you get transported.
Yeah. Alan Silvestri.
No question.
He's up there. He's definitely probably top 5.
Yeah.
But also, I'm a huge Huey Lewis and the News guy.
Huey in, yeah.
Way more than a 30-something-year-old man should be. It should be past my time. I love Huey.
Yep.
So it's a Huey Lewis album, basically.
I was in Northern California in high school. Huey Lewis was.
Unless I ran the show, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Power of Love is one of the best songs. And the whole
Back
soundtrack
in Time.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
The whole thing is
Though
phenomenal.
served as a gateway to the rest of Huey's music.
Yeah. One of the things I learned about that soundtrack album, among others, Lost Boys, like I just mentioned, it's the songs that only exist on soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac.
Holiday Road?
No, that's not the name of the song on the Back to the Future soundtrack.
That's a good pull, yeah.
I think you're going
no, that's an excellent pull.
No, I mean the...
he does have a song.
It was, it's, what is it? I actually...
But there was some huge names that would just contribute one song.
And that's
Much
why
of the Kenny Loggins stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, and that's why it was so hard because like I said there were so many like CDs that had like that one theme from them, like almost
Time Bomb Town.
Okay.
It's Clapton did the same thing.
Yeah.
He shows up all over the place.
We can't use this because we can't pay for it. So beep, beep, beep.
Beep, 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 beep.
You think Lindsay's paying attention? Isn't he too busy? Like,
But if he gets windy, he probably needs the cash.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You get kicked out of Fleetwood
Yeah, he
Mac.
got kicked
He's
out.
suing
He's not,
them.
yeah.
He's not part of the reunion.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
Lindsay.
yeah, great. Obviously, a great soundtrack. Also mixing in 50s and covers of 50 songs.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Yep.
Yeah.
Earth Angel.
Oh, good. Yeah. Nothing wrong
Barry's
with that.
cousin Marvin.
Listen to this. Yeah, that's great. So we're down to ones.
Down to ones.
Down to ones.
All right.
The best soundtrack of the 80s, according to Sean Hogarty.
Yeah. So the number one for me is Pretty in Pink. So,
Really?
Yeah. It's for a number of reasons.
Okay.
So one of the first songs, I didn't see that movie until much later. Like I wasn't actually old enough to see that movie. Like
No, that was definitely a VHS.
Yeah.
That was a rental later.
So I'm sure I saw it on VHS. But the soundtrack I heard early on, there's a song on that soundtrack by a band called New Order called Shell Shock.
Okay.
And the mix on the soundtrack is actually different than the track Shell Shock on the New Order album. But I'd never heard New Order before, I don't think. I think this is the first time I'd heard a New Order song.
And they had another big 80s hit, didn't they?
Blue Monday.
Blue Monday, yeah. Okay,
New Order's
okay,
True Faith was a huge one later on.
Oh, the Smiths are on there?
Yeah. But, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, big synth, new wave fan.
Stretch it right up your alley.
That if you
Excess.
leave, Suzanne Vega, Left of Center, right? Pretty in Pink, obviously itself by the Psychedelic Furs, but just the entire thing is just it just speaks 80s. Obviously, it the whole John Hughes type of vibe and everything. It's all goodness.
It's all right in your comfort
You
level.
could have
too.
hit, any of those albums tied to Hughes movies.
Yeah. But that song Shell Shock, if you go back and listen to that is a song by itself that propelled me into Depeche Mode and New
So that's
Order. And all that.
that's the separator
song.
for you
Yeah,
from the other
Shell
ones.
Shock,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Excellent pull, sir. My number one is also something that's generally considered one of the best albums of all time. That's Purple Rain.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
I've never seen the movie, Chris.
I've seen bits and pieces. I can't honestly say that I've sat there and watched through the entire movie.
Yeah.
But in terms of an album, I mean, it was the soundtrack for that movie, but in terms of the number of hits that came off of that, the number of memorable songs, I mean, you probably had 3 or 4 number one hits on that.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Like when I was going through stuff, I didn't think about. I mean, I'm not the biggest Prince guy.
Was that in the 80s?
Yeah,
It was.
87.
It was like mid
86,
80s,
something
like
like that.
86, 87. When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy, all that.
When Doves Cry,
And the title track,
was Little Red Corvette on that?
Little Red Corvette,
Was it?
Raspberry Beret.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
No,
loaded.
I thought-
Raspberry Beret was
think
the
it
next
is.
album.
No, I think it's because we went and saw like a Prince cover band
Mm-hmm.
that his daughter's teacher plays in. And they were phenomenal. They did the whole thing.
Shout out to Love Sexy.
What does she play?
She's the lead guitarist.
Really?
Yeah, Jody's amazing.
Well, yeah, but When Doves Cry is a special song for me. Its production, the sounds he used and stuff, all of his production.
That's generally,
he was so
if you go Rolling Stone, MTV,
yeah.
any of the list, that's generally a top 15, 20 album of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
And the title track. I mean that. I mean, of course,
Darling Nikki. I mean, you have a number of memorable hits off of that.
You of course, seen Prince performing that in the rain and this, Super Bowl half. I mean that.
His Super Bowl halftime show was epic.
And it's one of the things that he never gets enough credit for. He does a little more now that after he died. He is one of the greatest guitarists that ever lived.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go back and watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tribute to George Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
And they compiled this insane list of guitarists.
Yeah.
And every one of them is jockeying for position.
Yeah.
And there's this great story that you see people will tell out on this little YouTube video that
Clapton one.
Prince never asked for. I mean, he never really tried to stick his nose in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, just do your thing and then I will fill. I'll just come in and I'll play a little something and wrap it up. And he unleashed one of the greatest guitar solos I've ever seen.
I don't think I've seen that. So
it is. We're going to watch it after this episode. It is unbelievable to the point where you have these guys that are all legends They just stop there and stare in awe.
Yeah, there's one. I forget what the exact quote was, but so like if I had to pick one, to me, Clapton might be the best guitarist ever.
He's my favorite.
Yeah,
I
he's always my
I
favorite.
love Mark Knopfler. I love Prince.
Yeah.
I don't think Prince ever got the credit he deserved.
But someone,
or being a guitar player.
some interviewer, someone asked Clapton something like, "So how does it feel to be the best guitar player to ever live?" And he goes, "I don't know, go ask Prince."
Yeah.
So
I
it's a good
remember
poll.
that interview.
So my number one, I try to go off the wall.
Yeah.
This
Literally?
is.
You go, Michael? No.
Oh,
That's not a
it's not
soundtrack
in the
album.
movie.
That's okay.
So,
you got me excited for it.
This CD has, I mean, I know every song on it front to back. It came around when I was a kid. It's part of one of my favorite, we'll call it expanded universes ever. I'm going with the soundtrack for The Little Mermaid.
Oh, well, I mean, there's no question. That's not one I would think of because when I'm thinking 80s movies, I'm thinking live action.
I tried to throw
I mean,
a curveball.
Kiss the Girl, Under the Sea,
Part of Your World.
Les Passants, Part of Your World. I mean, it's
a phenomenal.
What year was that? 88, 89?
89.
Yeah.
89. I was,
No,
I was like in second grade when that came out. I just thought because there was a video that's been going around on Facebook where this lady's getting married and somehow her dad's got the dough to pull Jodie Benson to the wedding.
Oh, I think I saw that.
And she comes out and she starts singing Part of Your World. And, it's just, you get a little weepy eyed. It's like,
I'm getting chills thinking about that.
She's singing it live. And we've actually, we met Jodie Benson. So Jodie Benson narrated the Candlelight Processional at Epcot we went to one year.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and she's got a great voice. She was some other Disney characters too.
One time I went, I had Pedro Serrano.
Really?
Well, there's, great number one. Totally worth it. Different.
Tried to mix it up a little bit.
Because that's a musical.
It is.
So that
Sure.
it's not it's not a soundtrack. It's a musical, but it absolutely counts, and it's a fantastic
totally
one.
Like I said, I mean, I easily could have, if we weren't say like animation was off the table, I could have.
We didn't.
No, we did. I'm saying, but I could have just screwed everything up and put Top Gun. But I said, I wanted to be different because I like to be different. So, okay, so quick recap. So Sean had Say Anything, The Lost Boys, and Pretty in Pink.
Yep.
Chris went with The Blues Brothers,
Yep.
Rocky IV,
Hell yeah.
Run in the Snow, and Purple Rain. I went with Dirty Dancing, Back to the Future, and The Little Mermaid because I am a
I
child.
think that's actually a pretty good.
I'm impressed with how little overlap there was.
Yeah.
There was, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to.
So one of my favorite things so far about this, top 3 thing that you came up with, DJ, that we've been doing is between us being, slightly different ages, slightly different backgrounds, and definitely different tastes, and very little preparation on some of our parts. The result is always an interesting sampling. It almost we should actually go back and compile a list of these things and they're playlists or watch lists or eat lists right.
That's a nice poem.
Right. After our Halloween Candy episode, I think I've gained several pounds because I'm oh yeah, peanut butter cups. So
you bring that after the Halloween episode. I went down to my work building is right next to a CVS.
Oh, bad
and
news.
CVS had all the candy bars, 2 for $1. So I literally I threw the phone on. I had the earbud, went back, listened to them again, and I bought the entire gambit, and I've eaten them over the last 2 days.
Oh, dude. Anyway, so this was another example of that.
They're fun. It's a good way to generate conversation.
You hit on a good point. There's just enough age gap between myself and Sean, and then myself and DJ in the other direction, where you get different swaths of. Even though you're talking about the 80s, you touched on more of some of the later ones, or Dirty Dancing,
or the younger kid ones.
Exactly, the younger kid ones. You had a little more deep cuts from earlier, so it's an interesting mix.
So it's all different.
I tend to be right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's fun.
Because you're right in the middle.
There you go.
Well, you can pretend you're right in the middle. It's really like me and you, and then baby DJ over there, but. But good stuff.
It's been good stuff. So I think we're gonna keep this going. So if you like this, we're gonna try to keep these series going. If anyone wants to hear, either pipe in something we missed, hit us up on Twitter at FMN37.
Tell us we're idiots. If anyone has any ideas for top 3s, we'll jump into the 90s possibly.
Just
whatever.
General questions, whatever.
Yeah, hit us up. We'd like to hear from people.
And
as we
hopefully
try to
sometime. What the hell did Chris buy? Hopefully that's not a session, not a chapter of every podcast.
He kind of hinted that it was going to be in the mail for the next episode, so we'll have to.
Is it?
So
if you had
It should
to
be here
describe
for the next
how
episode.
big is it, Chris?
Is it coming in a
What
fragile
size?
crate?
How big is
It's
the box?
not coming in a fragile crate.
Okay.
It's on the smaller size.
He bought Warwick Davis.
Ooh, that'd be
Great
amazing.
episode. Have a good week.
Have a good night,
Take
everybody.
care, guys. Later.